Tuesday, once again, today we're talking about recent problems at the Charleston VA and the VA on a nationwide scale. Attorney David Ayler, the man who puts general in General Sessions Court, is here to discuss. Counselor, welcome back to the program. Let's talk about this. Of course, it was splashed all over the headlines recently, the situation out in Arizona, I believe, with the VA there. Now we have some families suing. So tell me about that and how that kind of correlates with the general medicine that's not linked to the government.
Yeah, well, what you're seeing in regards to the VA is across the nation. They're doing a lot of investigations with these hospitals, and they're determining that there's so many services and things that the VA patients were supposed to be supplied and provided in a certain period of time and weren't at all.
A lot of this had to do with wait times, of course, and people not receiving the care that they needed in a timely fashion. Is that something that everyday citizens can sue the government and the VA over?
Well, absolutely. If it ends up relating to some sort of proper care you're not getting, and that's ultimately what you're talking about here. The timeliness of your service is almost just as important, if not more important sometimes, than the actual service itself. And you're seeing these allegations of records being made up, times being sort of, forged over into a different period to look like someone was getting care, and they actually weren't.
I'll ask you this question because I'm not sure of the answer. Are VA doctors government employees and different than private healthcare doctors?
Well, private hospitals and public hospitals are definitely looked at different in regards to how any type of civil lawsuits come and how they're handled. But they're still very much responsible for that due care level that they have to meet, as well as other hospital administration. So the fact that you're starting to see these lawsuits now doesn't surprise me. They'll probably end up being a lot more.
The other question I have is who would actually mediate this? Would this be a federal court, a federal judge that would take on these cases?
More than likely, yes. Since it's the United States, it would be the VA hospital. It would go into federal court if it's not somehow mediated or arbitrated ahead of time. Just similar to where we see medical malpractice cases, which are with any hospital. You look at these different standards that they're supposed to meet, and particularly if you have situations where people are actually not only not providing it, but they're going far beyond trying to cover it up, you could have some serious problems.
Indeed, and I think a large part of this problem is, and it has to do with the general health care of the public as well. How do you prove allegations like this?
That is very difficult. In any medical malpractice type of case, trying to show that standard of the general standard was deviated from is difficult to prove. Really, you can only do it with the actual facts of the case, comparatively with other experts who can explain what it should have been and then what it wasn't.
So most likely this is going to go on for a pretty lengthy period of time.
I think it'll go on for a lot longer simply because we're just starting to see the beginning of it in relation to VA hospitals. But you'll probably also see it outside of that as well in the private sector.
What about charges? Can people in the government that, let's say this all comes to fruition and it seems that VA managers were not giving care and actually doctoring those books. Is that some kind of conspiracy charge, or is it more like somebody would just step down?
Well, I mean, both, really. You have a situation where, of course, they could lose their job, but beyond that, if they're forging documents and making up fake government documents, yeah, absolutely, you could see some felony charges coming.
So what would be the first step if somebody, we saw that they investigated here in Charleston and there were not many cases. If somebody is watching this and they suspect that maybe they weren't getting the care that they should have gotten, what exactly is the first step? What do you want to do?
You want to report it actually to the VA administration. They have already set up investigations internally. That's where you would first start. A lot of people don't know where to start, so they'll either just not report it at all, or maybe they don't really understand that they should be reporting it. So you want to go to the VA administration themselves and have that set up. If that's not something you feel comfortable with doing, bringing on an attorney just from the standpoint of an investigatory term would also help as well, but you really can start with the actual VA.
Would this become a civil matter, or would it still be criminal, or would it be both?
It could potentially be both, specific to the care and the things that you may not have been provided. Just like in the private sector, medical malpractice, that would be civilly. It would be criminal from the standpoint of these managers or anybody else that was actually turning in falsified terms, which are government documents, since it's the VA.
Of course, we will keep following this developing story right here on Lowcountry Live and at ABC News 4. Attorney David Ayler, thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Do appreciate it. Stay with us. More Lowcountry Live coming up next in just a moment.
Trial Tuesday, brought to you by attorney David Ayler.